Good afternoon. Thanks for attending, everyone. We've got a few more people we're waiting on. I'm Shancy with HomeGauge, and today we're going to be talking about template editing and best practices. Since we have a larger group today, I have Matt assisting me on questions and that type of thing. So you might notice on your screen, you have this panel, and there's a space where you could submit questions. So you can do that periodically, and Matt will do his best to answer. I will also be stopping periodically just to make sure no one has questions. It would make it easier if we stayed on topic. If you have questions on something I haven't covered, or if you're curious if I'm going to cover it a little bit later, that's fine to ask, but I should be thoroughly covering pretty much all the template topics today. Hello again, this is Shancy. We're going to be getting started here in just a second. It looks like we have a couple more people logging in. We have a nice crowd here. I do recognize some of the names, so I'm excited to see some seasoned HomeGauge users here. Richard Ingalls and Ray Baird, Derek Sova. And there's some people here I don't know your name necessarily, although that doesn't mean that you haven't been using HomeGauge for some time. Most people find that the template modification stuff takes a little bit more dedication, and so this webinar is going to be covering the details of that. And once you kind of get the hang of a few of these things, you'll find that your overall report writing time should improve. There's even just a few small things you can do, and it is my pleasure to host this webinar and to share my knowledge about best practices. I'm just going to get started here. The initial stuff will be kind of light, and then we'll get into the more detailed things in case anyone else decides to log in a little late. I have my software open. As you can see, this is just the software that's on the computer. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open a template and I'm going to copy it so that I can leave the original untouched. And as we make changes today, if we don't like something we've done, or we can always have the original preserved and to go back to it, okay? So I'm going to come up here, and actually I'll use a little pointer. Sometimes that helps for you guys. So you're going to see my little red dot. So we've got a menu that runs across the top here, and the first thing I'm going to do is come down here and select a report template. So the template is what everyone starts a report with. It's just sort of like the foundation for any report you want to create. You can use more than one template, but most of the time, for residential especially, you would typically find that one works well for you, and on the fly you can make changes based on what you discover when you get on site. I'm just going to select the standard systems residential. If you have a second computer with you, or you want to kind of follow along, you can do that. When I open this, I'm going to rename it. So I can double click on this icon, or I could use the open template button at the bottom. And now at the top left, under this file menu, I am going to select Save Template As. It's kind of like when you're going to save a Word document or something that you want to just make a copy of so you could take it in a different direction and have the original untouched. And that's what we're going to do here. Save Template As. And I'm going to rename it here, and I'm just going to call it Template Change Webinar, so I know what I used it for. And it always helps if you spell things right. Always check your spelling. And we'll click OK. And once I do that, it will have that template open. You can even look down here at the very bottom and see that it actually renamed my template down here at the bottom, if y'all can see that. So I'm not working in that original template that I selected. So let's have a look at these menus across the top. When you take the basics webinar with me, we would go over all of these buttons. But today we're going to focus on these over here, where we see Add T, Edit T, Delete T. Anything that has a T on it has to do with the template. And so when you are writing a report, you have the opportunity to do two things. You can write a report for your customer, obviously, that's our ultimate goal down the line, but you can also be making modifications to your template so that the next time you go to write a report, maybe some things are set up a little bit better for you, so it saves you some time. Or maybe you have some of your preferred narratives that you can add so that you're not typing out everything while you're trying to write a report. Keeping in mind that the more you're physically typing, the more likely you are going to make a typo. So if you're retyping the same narrative with a tiny bit of a different little different bit of language, you're just increasing your chance of making a typo when you could have the foundation of the comment there and have nice consistency in the language that you present in your report, because your report is your product and you want consistency in your product. You want it to be reliable and you want people to know what to expect when they look at your report. And I'm just talking specifically about agents for consistency. So as we navigate over here on the left, these buttons will become active and available for use. So let's just kind of dive in and see what we can do out of the gate. So I've saved my template, and many of you may know that as you kind of navigate through these items here, when you click on one, it will bring you to the inspection items page. But if you want to make a change to this list here, you need to click on the word components. Most of you should probably have that option. Some really older versions of HomeGauge might have things like interior or exterior, but typically you'll see components. And I'm going to click on that, and it brings my components to the middle of the screen. So this allows me to either reorganize these, change what they're called, add new things if I care to, or maybe even duplicate something so that I can make some modifications. You'll notice up here at the top again, now those icons that were grayed out a few minutes ago, now you can see that they're active because I am in a place in the software that allows for template changes. If I was on a page that wouldn't allow for template changes, they would just be gray. Well, let's just look at this example for just a minute. Let's say that we wanted exterior to be the first component in the report. If I click on exterior, selected, and then I could use the up T or the down T button to reorganize the list. Hopefully you all can see that when I put my mouse over those buttons, it kind of highlights in yellow. So I'm going to move it up one. And when I do that, this button over here, the Save T button right here, will light up because I would have made a template change. Now, you're going to hear me say Save T a lot. It is sort of like, it is the thing that makes the difference between writing a report and making the modification for yourself as an inspector so that the template starts to evolve into something better. And it is the validation you need to know that you did something properly. Okay, so we're gonna, this is like, somebody sent me a t-shirt one time that said Save T. So because I say it so much. So let me move this, and then you're gonna see that light up. I've got my exterior selected and I'm going to move it up. And as soon as I did that, exterior changed here on the left, it moved up. On the far left, it moved up because this center list controls this left list, and my Save T button lit up. So I'm going to click that. Okay, so now I have made a permanent change to this template. So if I were to start a report over at this moment, that exterior would be the first item in the list. Not too terribly difficult, right? Although I would say the majority of people have roofing as the first item. So I'm going to put exterior back to the second position, and I'm going to use my down T button. I already have it selected because you can see this little box around it, and if I put my cursor over it, it turns orange. So I'm going to use the down T, right? And now my Save T button lit up again, and I'm going to click that. When you're starting to really get a feel for template changes, you are watching for that Save T button. And the reason is you need to make sure that you're doing things properly. So if I had made all of these changes, let's say I made 5 template changes, whatever they were, I thought that I did, but really I only made 4 properly. And the one I didn't do properly, but I never clicked Save T in between. Only the 4 that I did properly would save. The one that I inadvertently didn't do properly wouldn't save. And then the next time I opened my template, I'm like, wait a minute, I changed that. You didn't get the validation in between each change. So when you make one change, you watch for the Save T button and you click it. You make another change and you click it. Yes, down the line, you won't have to do that all the time as long as you're confident that you're doing it right. But initially, it's really good practice to get that validation for yourself, knowing that you did it right. I wish it had more like exciting things like bells and whistles and you're fantastic, you did your template change right. Well, that would get a little old. So we're just going to go with the Save T button lighting up and you being satisfied with that. I'm sure that will work for you. So I reorganized this. Now, if I want to, I can say, let's say that I have a totally new component that I want to add. Now, HomeGauge offers like a 360-degree camera, of like a picture option, and some people like to create like a photo gallery so that they can put all the 350-degree photos in there. So I'm going to create, let's call it a home tour component, so that I can then later on, if I wanted to add some 360-degree photos there, they would all be in one area. And in order for me to do that, I need to use the Add T button, because I'm adding something to this list from scratch. And that would be this button right here. I'll click that, and it's saying, so what do you want to call this component? I'm going to say home tour. I'm just going to click OK at the bottom. I want to point out that this is like from scratch. It's not going to have anything in there. So when I click OK, it will put the item at the bottom of the list. You'll also notice that it added a number, and my Save T button lit up. I'm going to click on Save T. Now, the thing about that is it's not really finished yet. It only is a component. It doesn't have any inspection items in it. And in order for it to function properly, it needs an inspection item, even if it's just one. I'm going to kind of skip ahead for a second and just add that inspection item to make this component functional. On the far left here, I'm going to click on Home Tour, and it will navigate me to where I would normally see inspection items. But because this home tour component is brand spanking new, no one's ever used it, it's bright and shiny, it needs something else to actually function. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add T here. And now it's only going to add whatever it is that is active on this page. So I don't have a component active on this page, and I don't have styles and materials active. I have inspection items, and it will know to add an inspection item. I'll click that. And I'm just going to say 360-degree photos. You know, they don't have the little degree symbol on the keyboard anymore. I'm sure there's some kind of like crazy combination of keys that you can press to get that little degree symbol, but today we're typing out the word degree. And now my Save T button lit up. So I'm going to click that because that was a template change. Now, I have these column headers here, but we're going to address that later. I'm going to leave that as an example as why we might change column headers later. So for the moment, we have added a component, and within that component, we have added an inspection item so that the component itself and the area will work properly. So let's navigate back up to components so we can continue seeing what kind of component changes that we can make. Sometimes you all may have noticed that you get to a house and you wind up with two garages, an attached garage and a detached garage. Now, that may not happen every day, but let's say you live in an area where this is extraordinarily common and you are just tired of manually going in and adding this extra garage. And I'm just going to show you how you would do that on the fly first. So if you go to click on the word garage, and this is a good lesson because this is not a template change. And then I'm going to use these tiny little icons up here next to duplicate sections. I'm going to use this double plus sign right now to break out an attached and a detached garage. I'm going to click on attached, it shows up here, and detached, it shows up here. And now I'll click OK. And when we do this, the Save T button will not light up because it's for this one report, as if I got on site and I discovered this. Here's my two attached garages, or attached and detached, but the Save T button did not light up because that's for this one report. You'll see it over here as well. And the inspection items are there for each garage. That's great. Well, if I always want this to show up, I need to do a template change, right? I can't just do this. And although that only takes a second, we all know when you're writing a report, seconds count, right? Every little second just adds up, and the next thing you know, it's minutes, and you can't spare minutes. You've got things to do, and you have a family maybe you'd like to spend some time with now and then. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take one extra step, and I'm going to click on garage here. And instead of using these icons, I'm going to use the Edit T button. And that's because I want to make a change about the garage component. Whenever you want to change something or fix it the way you want to, that little wrench, you want to fix it, that's what you're going to choose. So I will select Edit T. And I have these two garages right here. The way I would duplicate this is this number 1 right here is what tells the software to only have one garage when I open the template. If I want attached and detached garage to show up every time I open the template, I would change that to 2. If I had 4 different types of garages, a 3-car garage, a 4-car garage, and they were all in this list, and I wanted whichever ones were at the top is where it starts to count. So let's say I wanted 3 here. I could add a 3-car garage, and then I could change this number to a 3, and all 3 of them would show up. So I'm going to actually add 3-car garage over here to the right, this little icon with the plus sign. I could just click OK here, and the next time I opened my template, it would only have attached and detached garage because this has a number 2 here. It'll pick the first 2 items in the list. But if I wanted the 3-car garage to show up as well, I would just change that to a 3. I'm going to leave it as a 2, and I'm going to click OK at the bottom. My Save T button lit up. I'm going to click on that. So what this means for me is I did 2 things. First, on the fly, I added these 2 garages just because I discovered it at this one piece of property. And if I never saw that again, or I didn't see it a lot, I would leave that. But because I'm finding a lot of attached and detached garages in my area, and I don't want to do that manually every time, I've gone into the template, changed that number to telling it to pick the first 2 items, and I clicked OK and I saved my template. So if I were to close this template right now and reopen it, it would have attached garage and detached garage automatically. I will make a side note. That's great for multi-unit properties. If you've got more than one heating and air system in a large home, you could break it out and be able to inspect each unit individually. Multiple kitchens that might have built-in appliances. On the fly, you can do that. So that's a really useful tool just in report writing. But for what we're doing today, we're saying we want to duplicate those always. That way, when we open the template, it's like that. So let's say that's what happened. Now, when we open our template, we have attached garage and detached garage, but we get to the property and there's only an attached garage. There's only one garage, really, more importantly. I can just remove this on the fly by clicking on one of them, detached garage. And I'm not going to use my template modifying tools because I still want the 2 garages to be there the next time I select my template. I just want this one report to not have that. So I've got that selected, and I'm going to use this little red X to the right of duplicate sections. And when I do that, because there's only 2 garages there, it's actually going to remove both of them and bring me back to the default garage with no attached or detached. Am I sure that I wanted to remove that? Yes, I do. And now I'm back to garage. My Save T button has not lit up because that is just a report change. So I hope that you all find that helpful. The other thing we can do here is you can add icons next to components so that in the body of your report there can be little symbols or little icons that represent that section. So I'll use roofing as an example. So if I want to add an icon to roofing so that when someone looks at my report, they see a little icon next to the roofing section, I would select roofing, and I need to change something about it. So of course I would go to Edit T, okay? It'll open this up, and all I have to do is click in this little gray box here, and it will take me to a file on my computer. HomeGauge provides some examples of what these icons look like. You can use some, or you can go hunting down a style that you really like. So when I click on that, it opens up this screen, which is where your HomeGauge file lives on your computer. And actually, I'm not a huge fan of what's there. I have a tendency to go in this file right here. And I'm going to use this roof icon. When I click OK, open rather, it shows you the icon in the little box, and now I can click OK. That is a template change. When I click OK, my Save T button lit up, and I click my Save T button. Well, right now that really doesn't show me very much, does it? I can't even like get the immediate gratification of knowing what I changed. So let's look at it really quickly. I'm just going to go to Print. I know the items have not been answered, but I'm going to say yes just because I'm, practicing. I'll have full report for upload. Here's my roofing icon right here. Here's my roofing section, and it has this nice little neat, clean looking icon. So that's nice. There's several nice gray ones in there, and it's not expensive to buy just a file full of complementary icons. They all kind of complement, they match each other. So you might find something that works for your style that matches, I guess, not your logo color necessarily, but your style. And so that's how you add an icon to a component. So there's one other thing that you can do here. I will just I'm not so sure I'm going to show you necessarily. I'll try because with one screen it's a little bit tricky. So HomeGauge is a little different than other programs that live on your PC. You can open it more than once. So typically if you go into a Windows program on your computer and you open it and then you went and clicked on the icon again, it wouldn't open a second session of it. It would just activate the session that you have open. But with HomeGauge, we can actually open another session. And what that means is if I had another template that maybe had a component in it that I wanted to have in the standard template that I use, I could literally copy the entire component with just a couple of clicks, and it would include all the component, all the inspection items, the styles and materials, and all of the auto comments that are included in those inspection items. What I do is I right-click on the icon in the toolbar at the bottom, the taskbar, and then I just pick HomeGauge again from there. And you see how it opened it up a second session. So if you see here, I've got the original one behind here, and then I have a new session open in front. So I'm just going to open that up, and I'm going to go grab a template that has like something different in it. Here's multi-unit, and I'm going to open that one. So we've got some, it's kind of different over here. So just as an example, I'm going to use units. You may have another reason why you would want to pick this. It also could be something where you're going to create a little section that you'd only use sometimes. I'm going to select units. So in order to copy that, I need to click on the word components on the left and click on the word units. And I'm going to use the copy T button, copy T. And it's sort of like when you copy something in a document on your computer. You're not going to see much happen. So it's just kind of like floating on your invisible clipboard. I'll click copy T. And now if I minimize this one and go back to the one I was working in a second ago, the paste T button is lit up over here. It knows that I had a second version of HomeGauge open. And when I click paste here, it's going to put it at the bottom of the list and my save T button will light up. Actually, this is like some smart text, so we're just going to say, do not import this because it already has it in there. Save T. My units are right here. If I click on units on the far left, here's all the inspection items that go there, all the styles and materials. This is a lot faster than having to manually create something like this. Even if it's more than what you need, you could then come in here and eliminate the things that you don't want. But it has narratives in here. So there's none of this having to, reinvent the wheel. So that's kind of a nice quick shortcut. This is really helpful too. If you inadvertently delete something from your template, you could always go to an older version and then copy and paste and get all your stuff back. All right, no questions, y'all. I'm going to tell you, don't be shy. I will know the answer. If I don't know the answer, Matt will know the answer. Between the two of us, we like to think we can put our heads together and figure it all out. We love to be challenged. Don't be shy. Our next step here is column headers and inspection items. So I'm going to visit column headers first, and I'm going to use, we'll talk about that for just a minute. So typically when you come into a component, you have your column headers. And your column headers, this on default typically look like this: inspected, not present, repair, replace. Some people don't realize that you don't have to live with that. I mean, HomeGauge, every single thing you see in a template when you open it in HomeGauge is, it's just a suggestion. HomeGauge is so customizable. You could change these, you can get rid of all of them. You could reorganize you could just go inspect boats for the rest of your life if you wanted to. If you rip it all out, put all boat stuff in there and live at the beach, and then you're a boat inspector. It can inspect anything. We'll talk about this really quickly, but I'm going to actually change the column header in that last section we made for the home tour. So I have these column headers, and these column headers coincide with general info. And this is where your definitions are. What it means is if you decided that in roofing you didn't, or in any of the sections, you didn't want to use repair, replace, you decided that deficiency or deficient is a better term. Well, if you change the column header, you need to remember to go in and change your definition. And so that you don't have repair, replace floating around in your report in these definitions when you've changed the column header meaning. That when you change column header stuff, you only do that when you're making a decision to make a template change. That is not something you would want to change in the middle of a report. That's really important to remember. There's some stuff you can get away with, but I would much rather everyone be super strict about it and not change column headers in the middle of writing a report. You could lose data because when you change a column header, you're significantly changing, you're potentially significantly changing the meaning of your report. And if it doesn't think it's a repair replace anymore, if you change it to maintenance, it would say, well, this isn't a maintenance, and it would remove stuff. So only when you are consciously making a choice to make template changes do you change column headers. So a couple of things. I'm going to come down here to Home Tour, and I'm going to make a change to this because on the Home Tour, I don't need these column headers. I'm not indicating deficiencies in a Home Tour. All I'm saying is, look at your beautiful house. I'm an awesome home inspector, and I'm thoughtful, and I've included these great pictures for you. I don't need to indicate that I've inspected them. They're bonuses. I'm going to come up here to Template at the very top of the screen. It gives me this drop-down menu, and then I'm going to go to Edit Column Headers. It's going to warn me because it thinks I've already started my report. First, it's going to say, do you want to change this section only, or do you want to change all of your sections? Well, I only want to change this one section because I like inspected, not present in the other ones. So I will click this section. It's warning me saying, listen, it looks to me like you started writing your report. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I want to do it. And all I want to do is delete these. So if I click underneath one of them, like inspected, I can just use these buttons on the right to make my changes. For this particular one, I will use delete column, but if I wanted to like move it around or edit it to change the name, I could do that. But for this instance, I'm going to delete the column. Yes, I'm sure. And I'm just going to keep doing that for each one. Delete column. Yes, I'm sure. Now, the only one I'm not going to do this for is exclude. Because what if I want to exclude this section? I need it to be excludable, if that's a word. I always leave the exclude. They don't see that in the report anyway. Okay? And now all of those are gone. And I can click OK. It's going to warn me again. Hey, are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. And now I have none of those column headers. My Save T button has lit up. I need to click that so that that change is permanent. So the next time I open my template, those column headers are not there. Now there's other reasons you might, like you could come to roofing and you can go to that same thing. So we could come here to Template, Edit Column Headers. I'm going to set, in this instance, I would probably say all sections, but I'm not actually going to make the change. So I'll click all sections. It's warning me. Now let's just say I wanted to change repair replace to deficiency, and I would remember in the back of my head I'd need to go change my definitions. So I'm going to use the Edit column. And then I could just change this from repair or replace to deficiency, and I could change the column abbreviation to D. Something to observe here, I'm going to hit cancel because I'm not actually going to change it, is that because this is repair replace, I'm sure you all have noticed that when you put a comment in and you click the repair replace column, it automatically sends comments to the summary, and it automatically checks off this box way down here. And that's because when I check this little box off. Well, that happens because these boxes are checked. When the repair replace is selected and you check off the box that says, when this column is selected, quick set summary selections, which means start creating my summary. And if I uncheck the repair replace, if I clicked it by accident or something, we'll then remove that comment from my summary. So these two things are what basically control your summary, even though there's other ways to control it, but out of the box, this is the way it's controlled. And I'm just going to hit cancel. Okay, so no Save T, nothing, but that's how you would modify your template, your column headers rather. So let's talk about that general info section, because this one is sort of like, it's a little bit, people sometimes get confused. I won't say it's tricky because it's just like any other comment in your library, with the exception that in the template where it's stored, there's one little box that's checked off that says, hey, this comment is so important, it needs to be in my report every single time I open the template. I don't ever want it to not be there. It's crucial information. If I wanted to change this comment, I couldn't just come in here and type. So let's say I did that. Okay, here's my comment. Well, my Save T button didn't light up, right? So that would only be for this one report. If I needed another sentence in this here, and a good thing to put here sometimes is a link to your standards of practice. I always like that idea. You don't have to have a whole, I mean, I guess it depends on your standards, but typically you don't have to have the entire standards document or the whole broken out in the body of the report. You could just include a link and say, click here to read the standards of practice. So I'm going to get rid of this right here. And in order for me to change that and make a permanent change here, I'm going to do something that people are always like, are you kidding me? I don't want to. Are you sure I do that? Yes, I'm sure. You would erase this comment just from the report. It's not getting erased from the template, because right now we're just in the report. And there's this little eraser up here, old school looking eraser, just like, you know, in the 80s when we had those big nubby erasers. I'm going to erase this. Oh, it's gone. Save T. It has not lit up. So it's not gone permanently. But what I do need to do is go to where the comment really lives and make my change. So I would click on this magic wand right here. And if you see how I hover over it, it says Insert Intro Text, which is that general information. So I'll click on that and it brings me this list. This is just like the auto comment list y'all have probably seen many times, hopefully. But I have to find the comment that was there. If I just watch this column right here, auto, actually there's one right there. It has it right there. So if you click on that twice, it'll bring this one to the top. And if there is a Y in the column for auto, it means that this comment is automatically included on default in the report when you open your template. So I'm going to select that one. That's the one I'm looking for. I know that's the one because none of the others have a Y in the automatically include column. So I select it, and if I want to change it the way I want it, I use the wrench with the T, edit comment. It's a little small here, but I could come in here and change whatever I needed, and I'm just going to throw in some text at the bottom. Sentence. Okay, so let's say this is my important thing, or this is my you know, my standards of practice. I could, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but you could always highlight this, and if you had copied the URL, you would highlight where you want it to be the link, and you just click on this little insert hyperlink, and you would paste the link in here, and it would create a hyperlink here, and it would just take them to the internet if they had a connection when they were looking at their report. So now that I've finished that, I'm going to click OK. It doesn't like my abbreviation, so I'm going to tell it to ignore that. And the only other thing I need to do now, since I erased the comment from the report, I need to reinsert it. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to insert as one comment, and here it is, my Save T button lit up. I'm going to click that, and we can see my new sentence that is now in that paragraph, okay? Just remember, if the comment is there automatically, you need to change it where it lives. It doesn't live in your report, it lives in the template. Now we're going to get into comments, your custom comments, the comments that HomeGauge has, and how you can manage those well to make your report writing faster. I have a tendency to like to use exteriors. I'm in exteriors, wall cladding, flashing, and trim. If I double click on this inspection item, I don't have to use this magic wand down here. I can double click on the inspection item and it will open up my list of auto comments. And when I look at this list, obviously this isn't too bad, but sometimes these lists get long, and that would typically happen in electrical or in plumbing, where you just have a lot of different materials, and over time things have changed and you want to be able to find them quickly. So if I have a comment, let's just say this one, and I say, I pick this comment all the time. I really would prefer for it to be at the top of the list. I can just highlight it and use this up T button, move comment up, and it would then be in the top location. And if I were to click, if I insert it right now, and it's going to have a smart text, so it'll pop up a little box. Let's do this, insert into comment below. My Save T button lit up, not because I added the comment to the report, but because I moved the comment in the list. Okay, so I'm going to go back in there, double click, and I want you to notice this category filter up here at the top. We have a few categories here, and this is a little bit involved, so that's what's great about the webinars. They'll be recorded and you can refer back. So when you add comments to your library of narratives, you're going to be prompted to select a category where you want that comment to live. And that comment, those categories come from somewhere called the global list. This list right here is called a local list, and it is just the comments that you would use in the inspection item in which you are working. So right now, that means these comments would only be appropriate for wall cladding, flashing, and trim. They're here because someone at HomeGauge, because this is a brand new template, took the time to grab these comments from the global list and put them here to make them available and easy. What I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to add a new comment, and we're going to select a category, and we're going to talk about how we can control those categories. So I'm going to close out of here for a minute. I'm actually going to erase this comment just so we have a fresh screen. And we will type in a comment. So I'm not going to try to be like specific for a home inspector. I just do something that's easy. This is my wall cladding comment. I know y'all would use that. Someone should fix this. So this is going to be a summary item. I'm sure you don't use exclamation points in your report very much, but I use exclamation points. So I am going to use this little magic wand with the plus sign. What this is going to do is once I do that, I'm like in this gray area between writing the report and saving something to my template. So I could stop here and say, that's all I want to do is type this comment. But the next time I need this comment, I have to type it again, and we would really rather not do that. So I'll click the magic wand with the T. I'm going to give it a short name, wall cladding fix. I prefer when I get into this screen to select the summary at this time. So at the very bottom here, we have a little button that says select summaries. I'm going to actually pick that now. So if by some chance I miss clicking the repair replace column header for it, it still goes to the summary. I'm going to select that, click OK. Now this comment is even smarter than it was a second ago because it's so smart, it knows it should go to the summary as soon as I pick it. And when I click OK, it's going to say, hey, Shancy, I need you to pick a category. Always pick a category, always, always. Everyone's going to put their right hand up and say, I promise, Shancy, that I will always pick a category. And I won't just pick some random category. If I don't like the categories, I will just pick the closest thing so that later, if I want to, I can modify it and make a better category for it. So click OK. I know y'all did that. I can see it in my mind. When we get to this list of categories, I like to collapse the whole thing. I just find it easier to find things. So there's a little minus sign down here that will collapse this list. And since I'm in wall cladding, I'm going to navigate to exteriors. Then I'm going to go to siding and trim. So I could just pick siding and trim if I want to, but there's a way to add more categories underneath here. So I'm just going to pick siding and trim for the moment and click OK. And I'm going to save my template. Added a comment to my library, and if I go into this list again, it's at the very bottom. There it is. But you know what? I'm not all that crazy about the category. I feel like I could have done something better so that on the fly I could find that comment better. So there's a couple of ways that you can get to what's called the global list. In this instance, I would just navigate directly from this local list. There's a little shortcut. But sometimes if you just want to sit there and reorganize some things, you could just come up here to template and all comments. So these are all the categories we just saw in that drop down that I collapsed. This is all of them. And what I've done now is I threw my wall cladding comment into just a general siding and trim comment. And I really would prefer for it to be more specific. I just wanted to show you how to get there from here. I prefer to do it from the local list when I'm doing something like this. So I'm just going to hit cancel. I'm going to erase this comment and I go back in to this list. If I click on my wall cladding comment, you can see at the very bottom the category in which I stored it when I created it, siding and trim, right? The other ones here, this one, for example, you can see that there's a folder in that global list and it's called EFIS. So this is just a folder. So I need to go to where all these comments live and I want to move something around. I'm going to use this little plus sign with the T up here. And when I do that, it's going to take me to the global list that I was just in a second ago. That looks familiar, right? So I can scroll down here, but now the difference here is that now I'm going to be able to actually create another category. If I click on siding and trim, we can see my comment here. So let's say, actually I'm going to make a quick change to this because I want to Okay, I'm going to change this a little bit so it says that my wall, my wood wall cladding comment. And I'm just going to highlight it and use this wrench. It's an easy way to change it. My wood wall cladding comment. Okay, so what I want for that comment is I want a category over here that says siding and trim, and underneath it I want it to say wood siding. So I click on this and I use this little plus sign with the T at the bottom of this little organization tree, and I'm going to say wood siding. That way, the next time I have a wood siding issue, I can just keep and I add a new comment, I can just pick that category and I click OK. Well, that's great, except for because it's brand new, there's nothing in here. I now need to move the comment I created into that folder. So I'm going to click siding and trim. I click on wall cladding with the wood wall cladding comment, and I'm going to left click here on my mouse, and it's going to drag this comment, and I'm going to drop it. Here it goes, right here into wood siding. You can kind of see when that little circle with the line, I can't do anything with it there. I need to actually have it over the folder where I want it to live, and I drop it in there. And there it is. Now I can say okay, but there's something different now that I've gotten into this list. If I come up here to this category filter, I now have a wood siding filter. And that's because there is a comment in this list that lives in the wood siding folder in the global list. And what that means is if I had 5 comments here or just 1 or whichever, I could use this drop down to hide everything else that I don't need if I know my comment is related to wood siding. So if I select this, it's only going to show me the 1 comment in this list that lives in the wood siding folder in the global list. This saves an enormous amount of time when you really are committed to it. It allows you to, on the companion even, it has these filters. And you know, on those smaller screens, it's a lot more difficult to sort through a long list. I mean, we're in wall cladding, that's not all that ginormous, but if you're in, you know, electrical or you're in plumbing, those lists can get long, and keeping them organized like this is going to be a huge time saver. So that being said, I'm going to reinsert this real quick. I saved T because I did a couple of things. Number one, I changed the comment, right? I made a little change to the comment. I created a new folder in the global list, and I moved the comment into there. Now, I couldn't save my template in between those actions because I was in a sub-screen, but as soon as I came out, those are all template changes. I mean, you don't ever get to the global list without making a template change. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to save template. What this means is if you've been using HomeGauge for a while, you kind of have a little task on your hands that you might want to work on. And I'm happy, if anyone wants to shoot me an email, I'm happy to give you a quick little step-by-step type of instructions that I can email you to kind of give you a baseline for how to get started, because I don't want you to be overwhelmed if you've been using the software for a long time. But the moral of the story is this. If you come to template up here and go to all comments, if you just look at this list and say, you know, when I add my comments, sometimes I really wish that I had a refrigerator category, or I might feel like cooling and heating under distribution, I like ductwork, right? Or a return or something like that. You might have different types of filters. You might want subcategories under that. So you don't have to get crazy, okay? And it does not, and I don't have time to go into why, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. This list on the left does not need to match the structure of your template, your components, your inspection items. If you did that, none of the filters would help you. Your report would be ridiculously long, and it really is no reason for that. I know that doesn't sound like a very satisfactory answer, but I have seen literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of templates, and whenever someone does that, they have done all this work for naught. It doesn't help. It doesn't make it faster. So I hope that you can just learn from my experience in me saying that. But you can come through here electrical. You can put a subcategory under here called knob and tube. And then if you wanted to, you could move the knob and tube wiring comments in there. And now you have a knob and tube wiring category in your local list. So I hope you're kind of getting where I'm going with this. It's sort of like having a filing cabinet in your office. This is your filing cabinet. If you had a filing cabinet and had all your papers like in one of those ridiculously wide green hanging folders, well, that's not going to help you find anything. But if you had manila folders with all your stuff in there, let's pretend every comment, your comments are actual pieces of paper. If you had all of the comments about, wood wall cladding, you could put it somewhere. If you had knob and tube wiring, it'd be in one folder. All of those things would be organized. You wouldn't dream of just throwing them all in a pile. You'd never find it. Or maybe you would, I don't know. But ultimately, that doesn't help you work faster. So creating some folders here, just a few, even if you came in here, I'm going to add 5 folders that I always feel that should be there when I add a new comment. And as you start to add more comments, now things are being more organized. You're able to find things faster. If you've been using HomeGauge for a long time and you come into this screen and you click on uncategorized, you may find a slew of comments in here. Now, some of them might not be used. So I have a really good 10-minute video that can help you in dealing with that. But don't feel overwhelmed. There's something you can do about it, and you don't have to do it all at one time. Now that we've added comments, let's just look at a few other things here because I only have about 10. I'm going to go over maybe 5 or 10 minutes, hopefully not too long. Let's add comments from the photo editor. So let me get some photos loaded up here. Some of you may not have realized that HomeGauge added a feature from the photo editor some time ago. I'm just going to go here and we'll go into receptacles. I'm going to add this comment right here, this picture right here. I'm going to double click on this photo that has the little tester in it right here. And double click. And when I get in here, I'm gonna make that bigger so you can see it. You'll notice this little icon over here. It looks like a square with an arrow. This is actually your auto comment list. So if you use a point and shoot and you're not using the companion right now, if you are adding your photo at this time, you could literally go to the auto comment list without just being in that other screen. If I click on this, I can type something in here. This is my new comment about outlets. And I click my magic wand with the plus sign and I give it a short name. And if it's a summary item, I select my summary and I click OK. And now it's going to prompt me to pick the category. And as we all vowed with all of our hearts that we would pick a category every time, I have outlets right here. Okay. I've picked it, I click OK, and if you can look, I move this over here, look, the comment's actually in the report over here, and I click OK. That's adding a comment from the picture editor, and now I need to save my template at the top. When we talked about the general info section over here, and this comment automatically shows up on report start, well, sometimes there's other comments you might want to automatically be in the report when you open the template. Let's say test all carbon monoxide detectors when you move in. Okay, that's great. Well, I want this to be in my report every time. Let's say everybody really does have carbon monoxide testers in all their homes. I'm going to use the plus sign with the magic wand. The only thing different that I'm going to do is check this box off right here. So when there is a check mark in this box, it means the next time, whenever I open the report after this, a template, the comment will automatically be in there. That's the same exact thing for the general info section. All right. And then I'm going to click OK. That's the only difference between a comment that you grab from the list and a comment that shows up in the report is that this box is checked. I will click OK. It will prompt me to select my category, and I have smoke detectors in carbon monoxide detector category, and I click OK, and my Save T button lit up. There might be other things that you like to have automatically, but typically it's going to be something that everybody should do. All houses should always test their smoke detectors. You should always test things accordingly. Things change. You inspect the house one day, but the next day a light bulb could go out, right? The other thing we can do here is add a photo to a comment based on, so it might be like, let's say in plumbing, we have the hot water systems, and I'm going to go in there, and let's say the T&P valve, right? So there's a picture. HomeGauge provides some drawings for you, and my thought process is this. You have taken a photo of something that is deficient. It's not right. So the T&P valve, it's not extended within the right range. So you want to take your picture, but you also want to show them what it should look like. So by selecting this comment right here, I'm going to take a couple of steps, and we're going to add a photo to be inserted. So I'm going to use the wrench, and I'm going to use this little, it looks like a little house icon. And when I click on it, it's going to take me to a screen where there won't be anything there because I don't have a photo associated with it yet. I need to go onto my computer and find the photo. So you may have your own photo, but HomeGauge has some sketches that you can use. So I'm going to use this plus sign with the T. And when I come there, you'll see HomeGauge. I'm going to go in that folder, and there's a folder called Drawings. And in here, I would go to Plumbing. And let me make these a little larger for you so you might be able to see those. So you could pick whichever one that you would want. If you have mostly gas water heaters, you'd pick one of those. If you have electric, you'd pick one of those. And you could pick one that's marked up or not. I'm just going to choose this electric with no text on it. And I'll click Open. And I'm just going to say T&P valve. That's just my own. It can make it as a picture, a caption if you wanted it to. This is just so you know what it is when you look at the comment. And then I'm going to click OK. And now I have one photo associated with this comment for when I insert it into my report. And so let's do that. I click OK. And when I have that comment highlighted here, you can tell that you have a photo associated with it because at the bottom it tells you the path right here. So if I clicked on one of these others, there won't be anything down there. There's nothing, just says none. But when I click up here, you can see that there is something, and it says JPEG after it associated with it. Now I'm going to insert that as one comment, and it automatically opens the picture, and I can, make whatever notations I want to. I can kind of, however I want to do this, or I want to do this, however I want to do it. And then I click OK. And then if I had my photo of what was wrong with their water heater, it would show up right next to this one in the report. I have to save my template to make that change. So now that photo is automatically associated with it. Another thing that you can automatically populate in your report when you select it is that when you're working in styles and materials, I like exteriors for this one as well, siding, material, there's a variety of different things you can use this for. Once you see this, you're going to be like, wow, I could use that for a bunch of things. So if I am inspecting a home and I discover that it has synthetic stucco siding or EIFS, I'm probably going to say the same thing every single time. I'm going to say something along the lines of, I don't inspect synthetic stucco. I do not check for water intrusion. It's not part of a standard inspection. I suggest you hire someone to do it, or it's an extra fee if we do it, however it is that you want to describe that. But you would do it every time. Typically, you'd say the same thing. But what I want is when I pick EIFS, I want that comment to automatically populate into my report. And what this means is it kind of, if you set up a bunch of these, you want to do your styles and materials first so that it's automatically writing the report for you versus doing your inspection items, grabbing the comment, and then going to your styles and materials. It's just going to save you some time if you link the comment to the style and material and let it populate part of the report for you. So I have this highlighted. I'm going to use the Edit T button because I need to change something about it. It's already in my report. So I need Edit T. And this is going to take a couple of steps. If this is going to seem like a lot to have to remember. So I will just say, if you go to support.homegauge.com and just search styles and materials, you will find instructions on linking a comment to style and material choice. I'm going to select EIFS because that's the one that I need to work with right now. And I need to change something about EIFS. At this time, I do not have a narrative associated with it. I'll use the wrench on the right, Edit Option. and I'm going to modify the auto comment list associated with this choice. And right now I have 0 comments in my auto comment list. It says so right there, 0 comments. But what I need to do is go to the global list and find my comment. So I know that it seems like a few steps, but even if you just picked like 2 or 3 every day, within a week, you'd have all these comments automatically populating when you write your report and select certain things. I'll click on the plus sign with the T, and it brings me to my global list. Well, the global list has a load of comments in there. I'm not interested in digging around for 5 minutes to find that one comment. I'm going to click on the word filter over here at the top, and I'm going to type EFIS. It will, and when I click find next here, it's going to search every comment in my entire library that has this term. And out of the box, HomeGauge only has 2. This long one is specifically for North Carolina, so unless you're here, you don't want to use it. This short one is your basic, some of the siding or trim is EFIS, I do not perform a test for possible water intrusion, blah, blah, blah. So I highlight it and I click OK. Here it is in my local, in the list for that material choice. I click OK again. Now it says I have 1 comment included. And now if we look at this, you can see that this EFIS is now bold. And that's how we tell when a comment is associated with a style and material choice. The other thing you want to pay attention to here is the inspection item parent, meaning that just means that the comment that's linked to that material choice, it will populate in this inspection item, wall cladding, flashing, and trim. If this were not correct, because maybe you customized your template further, you could just click on select and it would show you all the inspection items associated with exterior, and you could pick the appropriate one where you would want that comment to populate in your report. So now I'm going to click OK. My Save T button lit up. I'm going to click that. And now when I select EFIS, it's going to say, hey, Shancy, you told me that you wanted me to populate your report with this comment when you select this style of material. And this box right here is confirming that I have done what you have instructed me to do. Okay. That means when I come over here to inspection items and I click on, actually it itemized it. So this is my first one, the one I created, but now it gave me a second tab. Some of the siding or trim is in the home is EFIS. So that's because I have 2 comments associated with that inspection item. So this is the first one I added, and it automatically itemized it for me. You could use this for a variety of different plumbing. You could use it for Federal Pacific panels. You could use it for different types of insulation, knob and tube wiring, aluminum wiring. There's a load that you could, if you automatically say the same thing when you find that specific style of material is on site, then link it to that choice and let the software write your report for you some, as opposed to you having to click at every little clicky thing ever. And so we'll just touch on styles and materials for another minute or so because we're about done, and then summary. Styles and materials. So since this was already existing here on the left, if I wanted to add a new siding material, I could use the Edit T button because I need to change something about something that already exists. The item on the left and the list on the right, they're one thing, they live together. So I need to click Edit T, and I'm going to add a new choice here to these selections. I'll use the plus sign with the T. We have pudding siding going on here in North Carolina, and here it is at the bottom. And for me, I'm like, oh gosh, it is so common right now. I need that to be at the top of my list. I've got it highlighted, and it's getting moved up to the very tippy top because, man, it's the new trend. And now we click OK. And now my Save T button lit up, and here's my pudding right here at the top. Now, if I wanted to add an entirely new item to the left, I would use Add T, Panel Location. And I will name it Panel Location. That's a nice quick thing to want to know. And I'm going to use the plus sign with the T over here to add some choices. I can say hall closet. Mine actually is in the master bedroom. Whoops, and we want to stay consistent. When you add new things, always stay consistent. If both words are capitalized throughout your report, you want to make sure both words are capitalized when you add a new one. Otherwise, down the line, it's going to look sloppy. How about the garage? And then OK. And then we can click OK again. My Save T button lit up, and now I can select where it's located in the house. And last but not least, let's talk about summaries. On the bottom left of this little column over here, we've got our summaries. You can actually see that I've started creating summaries here because as I added comments and indicated, like by the column header or in the comment itself, that it was a summary item, it populated this. But what I'm looking at here is I want to change something about the summary. So I have, this is my summary review, this first tab. And this one right here is edit summaries. So that means if I wanted to add another summary, I could. I mean, typically one summary is sufficient, but maybe you want to, I don't know, do safety summary or a maintenance summary or something like that. So this is my current summary. It's just called summary. I'm going to add a new one. So at this point, I'm going to say add T at the top, and I'm going to say maintenance. And I'm going to change this to MS, maintenance summary. If I want maintenance comments in the body of my report to be a specific color, like the text, I could do that. And I could click this button and I could select the color of the text I want. Let's say this like nice dark blue. And if I wanted an icon to be associated with the summaries, I could do the same thing here as I did for that components and go pick an icon and it would show up with the summary items. But I'm just going to do a color for now. Click OK. My Save T button lit up. And now I have two summaries. But you know what? My standard summary, I'm going to want to change this to repair, replace summary. So I have this selected and I'll click Edit T. And we're going to say repair, replace summary. That's fine for the abbreviation. But you know what? I would like my comments to be red in the body of my report. Some people feel that red is a little alarming. I'm feeling like it's speaking to me, but whatever you want it to be, and it's easy to see, it's important. Don't pick yellow. You want it to be able to be seen. If I wanted an icon next to those items, I could check off this box and either use what's here or navigate to the file on my computer. When I click OK, I've got Save T right here. And now when I go to a section in my report, I have two summaries at the bottom. A maintenance summary and a standard summary, okay? And you could just check it off, or you could set your comments to select the proper summary, however you want to do it. But that's how you would add a second summary. You've got your color coding choices there. You have adding an icon and creating multiple summaries. So really, there's a ton of things you can do here. When it all comes down to it, it's your product. You need to find what makes you stand out. I will say having too much of a good thing is not always a good thing. Having like incredible amounts of color, and you don't want it to be distracting. You want them to be able to find what they need to find efficiently, but still produce a product that's useful to them. You guys are educators. People rely on you, and this is your product. And so if you take the time to spend a little bit of time in the template, even if you say 30 minutes every couple days, do it and you will find over time your report writing will get faster. Let's see, someone's asking me another question here. Is it okay to have a comment with smart text words to be automatically included on report start? I'm thinking it won't prompt. That is an excellent question, Richard. Here's the deal with that. Yes. You can totally include a comment on report start that has smart text, but you have to activate, two things can happen. You have to activate the smart text yourself if you've got a lot, or when you use your find unanswered, it will pick it up and then you can then populate it at that time. So I'm just going to throw a comment in here real quick. Let's pretend, I'm just going to use this one because it only has one. I'm going to insert as one comment and I'm just going to stop replacements. I just want it to be in there looking all funky, right? That's not helpful. Now, if this comment were here on report start and I was somewhere else in my report, wherever, it doesn't matter. I could come up here to report and I could say replace all smart text replacements. And it will take me to wherever there's smart text and I can populate it, insert into the comment below. Now, you could also, from the comment, let's say you got here and it was like it was when I just grabbed it. So let's pretend it was like this, and I insert as one comment, and it looked like this. You know it needs to be replaced, and you don't have to go all the way up here. You can just come to this little gear right above here and click it, and you can say replace smart text, and then you can pick what you need and insert into the comment below. So anyway, Richard, I hope that that answers your question. If you had several of them, you could just use this and replace all smart text, and it would navigate you through every single one. As you selected the choices, it would open the next one and navigate you to that area in the report. Excellent. I'm so glad that helps you. That's fantastic. We've run over a little bit. I swear I'm famous for that. I can never manage to finish a webinar. I always start off slow, but y'all are so patient with me. And I hope you learned something today. It has been my pleasure to host you. I genuinely enjoy teaching you guys this stuff. If you have any questions, you can email me at shancy@homegauge.com, and that's SHANCY. I'm also on Facebook, and if you don't belong to the HomeGauge users Facebook page already, it's a great resource for support. Either I'm there, or there are seasoned home inspectors who've been using HomeGauge for a very long time who are very helpful and willing to assist. So thanks for attending. You'll have a great night, and watch for this. Oh, I have one more question. Wow, you're like lightning. Oh, I'm so glad, David. I'm so glad you guys are enjoying it. Watch for YouTube, and we'll have this recorded. Y'all have a great night. Take care.